Start talking first.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. I am your host, Rex Ruger version 2.0.
And I'm your other host, Frank Benji, sparking up a spliff, ready for another episode.
Yeah, here's to that, man. This episode will sometimes be brought to you by the Cake THC pen. Or any THC pen, for that fucking matter.
We back at it again.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And supposed to have an exciting guest tonight. Scheduling problems arose. I don't want to tip off who it was going to be yet because it's always nice to have a couple surprises up our sleeves, man. And we will get this guy. But so we're switching our focus a little bit, and you know us, we dive into the meat and potatoes instantly. And as you can see by the picture, a picture that I didn't particularly like because it is a picture of Floyd seemingly landing the better shot on my main man, Oscar De La Hoya. But today is the day we are going to argue the merits of that fight. And I mean, my merit has been ever since they fought, which, and I don't have the date right in front of me, 07, 09.
2000, I believe it was 2008 or 9, yeah.
Yes, somewhere in that vicinity. But I will and continue to stand by De La Hoya won the fight.
I actually want to say now that it was Cinco de Mayo of 08 or 09.
Yeah. Well, you bloviate a little bit, and I'll look that up then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, man, and we've had this discussion, and I said I was going to say this on here in this forum. Where were all you Haney fans that were chanting about his great body work against Loma? Where why don't you chime in about this fight? Because Oscar was doing damage to the body.
Yeah,
and you might say that it wasn't effective. But the same could be said for the Loma fight, that Haney's body punching wasn't that effective. But it looked good.
And to your previous point, yes, it was on Cinco de Mayo 2007 at the illustrious MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the only place for a guy, the only place fitting for a guy like Oscar De La Hoya. The golden boy, really the first real huge pay-per-view star in the age of pay-per-view. Maybe Mike Tyson, maybe a little before him, man. But those fights were fucking over.
Yeah, but not to chastise Oscar at all, but you have to say that the Oscar of this fight on Cinco de Mayo in 2007, he was on the fringe of not really being the guy. He was more of like the coked out golden boy promoter.
Well, Jesus Christ, I would hope when he was in camp he was staying off the yayo, but I mean,
he wasn't. This Oscar right here though wasn't prime time golden boy.
No, but yet,
still a good version of himself, but not the prime.
A lot like we saw Lomachenko against Haney, though. Lomachenko getting long in the tooth, but still turned back the hands of time and turned in a great performance, which is what I think Oscar did in this fight. And I will say I will tip my hat to the as I'm looking at who the judges were that night. I will tip my cap to the great Tom Kazmarek, who had it 115-113 for Oscar De La Hoya. Chuck Jampa must have been in Mayweather's back pocket, 116-112. Jerry Roth, 115-113. I already saw it the other way, Mayweather. I don't know. Might be time for Chuck Jampa, or it might have been time back then. It's a little too late now, probably to get his prescription checked, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it calls and we've had this discussion on here. We had it with Scully. We had it with Chop Chop. Calls into question the judging. I mean, that's always been a case. Yep. And I feel like it's something that nobody utilized better than Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Whatever system they had going on, and I'll put system in air quotes because I'm not sure what the system was, if it was a little bit of pocket lining. I'm not sure, but
yeah. Alleged pocket lining. We don't want to accuse anybody of anything, man. So we'll throw the caveat alleged in there in this politically correct society that we live in, which I detest. But I mean, well, I guess I guess I threw it out the window when I'm telling Chuck Jampa that his score is extremely lopsided. But I guess 116, 112 is not a lopsided score, man. But when I watched the fight back, and I have watched it back a couple times, over the course of the years since, I don't know. I always score it 115, 113. I could have lived with a draw, and then they run it back, I suppose.
Hey, man. A split decision, two of the best guys in the game at that time. They should have ran that back within 6 months.
Yeah.
Like,
Floyd's never been a guy for really fucking going and giving anybody a second look, though. Very rarely did he run it back, quote unquote, with anybody. I mean, he was kind of a one and done guy, I mean.
Well, yeah, I mean, but especially against dudes that really gave him trouble.
Yeah. Right. That's why big hat off to Tank Davis, who it seems like is working on a rematch with Isak Pitbull Cruz, man. Knows the guy gave him a good fight. The guy's been doing nothing about talking about the great fight that he gave him.
You could tell that Tank's got a lot more heart and isn't as much of a fucking pussy as his mentor, Floyd.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. If that was Floyd, he would have waited until Cruz was 40.
Right.
And then fought him. But getting back to this fight, though, and speaking to your earlier point, Oscar was doing a lot of good body work. Irregardless if it was hard body work, he was touching the body a lot. And it really seemed like that he was doing a lot of the walking down. The one thing that Oscar did do late in the fight, and he's done this in fights before, and it drives me crazy, man. He will sometimes abandon his jab, which is such a potent weapon for him, because if people don't know out there, Oscar really is a southpaw who converted over to a right-handed fighter. So his strong hand, his left hand, is his front hand. So he has a very potent jab, but he will abandon it from time to time.
Well, it seemed in that fight, and I haven't watched it back in a little while, but I have watched it back since it happened. But I watched it live. And I agree with what you're saying, and I think it speaks to the fact that Oscar will allow himself to get pulled into whatever fight. Like he'll let his temper fly, and like you could see it in that Floyd fight. He just started, like you said, abandoning his jab and really trying to like shove Floyd into the ropes and get dirty with it, like fight dirty boxing.
Right?
Which really isn't Oscar's game, dude. Oscar's a skilled fighter. He doesn't need dirty boxing, but he was pulled into Floyd's fight. That's probably why he lost that fight, honestly.
Yeah, he did. But, I do feel like, typical Floyd, he did do a lot of running. I do think there was, he probably wouldn't cop to this, man. But
right,
I do
what's
think
the reverse side of it? When Oscar turns and runs, Felix Trinidad gets the win.
Yeah. That's another fight for another discussion. That's a whole other fight for another discussion.
But when Floyd does it, he's the winner.
I mean, we could do an episode just on bad decisions alone, man, but we got to do them one at a time because there's so many goddamn fights out there that were decided by. And so we've chosen to start here with a very high profile fight right here. And I'm sure people can challenge, the merits of what we're saying. And there's going to be the people on there that are going to say people can't just get over the fact that Floyd's the GOAT and he's 50-0, and people can't just deal with the fact that he outboxed and outclassed everybody. He has his people too, man. And while I don't completely disagree with those people, man, I do believe, man, that Floyd. All
right, man. You know what? No, listen. He retained his goose egg. You know what? So Joe Calzaghe's the GOAT.
Yeah, that's true. And technically, Terrence Crawford still has his goose egg and has been undisputed.
46-0 for Calzaghe.
Yep.
He knocked out way more dudes than Floyd did.
Yeah, where's the love for him? That is true.
So. If you just fight a bunch of guys that are good and keep your goose egg and you're the GOAT, then Calzaghe's the GOAT too.
But if people remember right, man, like this fight, man, at its time, of course we just had Spence Crawford, man, but even Spence Crawford, man, I'm looking at the numbers. Spence Crawford is not going to do like this fight here between Floyd and Oscar. At the time, the bout, I've got it here online. At the time, the bout was the most lucrative boxing match ever, over $130 million in generated revenue.
Right, and then obviously Obviously, Pacquiao and Mayweather outdid that, but.
And that's obviously though, man. Like what I mean, like 100, the 130 million of 15 years ago too.
Right.
16 years ago. I mean, but there was a lot of hype built up to it, and of course, me being a longtime Oscar De La Hoya fan, man. I mean, he certainly lost all the ensuing build up to the fight, man. I.e., press conferences, any kind of confrontation, man. Because Floyd is the more gifted trash talker. Admittedly, that's not Oscar's.
Oscar doesn't got a gift for gab.
No, he doesn't. No, he's one of those like let the fits do the talking type of guys, and I think credit a lot of that to the fact that fucking that he is a good looking a very boyish charm to his face, especially back then. He's more he's almost more like a guy that stepped out of the pages of a GQ magazine and put on boxing gloves. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So it almost comes off as like, and I'm not saying by any means that Floyd's a better trash talker because by any means he's intimidating looking. He's certainly not either. For fuck's sake, before he was Money Mayweather, he was Pretty Boy Floyd. I mean, so.
But speaking of that, though, you do have to kind of give Floyd a little bit of credit in the fact that he was able to win 50 professional boxing fights and get out of the sport with his shit still in order. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of guys aren't afforded with the same luxury.
Well, we're not here to argue the merits of Floyd's career. We're here to argue the merits of whether he won this fight right here, this one.
Yeah, I mean, which, everybody, and that's the thing about this is opinion, man. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, and there's going to be plenty of people that are, to your point earlier, that are going to say, oh, you people can't get over it. Floyd's the GOAT. He won the fight. But obviously, we're not the only two people that thought Oscar won this fight, dude. One of the judges did.
One of the judges, and let's also not forget Floyd's own father. Yeah. Who, when called on the carpet by whoever interviewed him at the end of it, Jim Gray or whatever, man, who really pushed him, because he tried to hem and haw. He tried to fucking straddle the fence or whatever and be diplomatic because he did used to be Oscar's longtime trainer. And he did step away from the situation, and Oscar understood. He retained fucking Freddie Roast to train him for that fight. Floyd, of course, had the late Roger Mayweather and who he always had, he's always had kind of a tenuous relationship with his own father.
Rest in peace to Roger Mayweather, but he was kind of annoying, and you can't tell me he taught Floyd a fucking thing about boxing.
Yeah, that's true. And quite frankly, I never understood a word.
At Roger's best, dude, Floyd would have killed him.
And quite frankly, I never understood about 2/3 of what came out of his mouth either. So I mean,
right.
But that doesn't matter. Floyd apparently did. So I mean,
rest in peace, though. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
To a guy that trained one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah. So there was a lot of hype coming into this fight, man. But of course, Oscar with that lead hand, and I mentioned earlier the jab. But of course, Oscar's
he didn't utilize it enough.
Oscar's quote unquote big Sunday punch though was always his left hook.
He's also one thing you got to think about. That we haven't really said is Oscar. Look at him here in this picture. He's the taller, rangier guy.
Yeah.
If he would have done his part to keep that jab out there,
not by much. Well, yeah, I guess actually by much because I'm looking at the tail of the tape here. Oscar came in at 5'10" and a half, and Floyd only 5'8".
Yeah, flat 5'7". I was going to say 5'7".
A lot of people don't know this, man, but this fight was not contrary to popular belief, man. This was not fought at traditional welterweight. This was at super
welter, 154.
Oscar came in at 154. Floyd came in at 150, but that's typical Floyd, though. He's going to come in a couple of pounds under always because he's just very disciplined like that. That I will give him credit for. His walking around weight is never far from his fight weight.
Actually, I got something, and this doesn't pertain to Oscar Floyd, but I'd like to get your opinion on this because I had this conversation last night actually with a friend of mine, and I said, and this is shout out Bradley Martin, but he's kind of like stupid with the shit he says. But I think this one's way more realistic, right? Me and Floyd Mayweather meet at a catch weight of 200 pounds.
Who?
Me and Floyd meet at a catch weight of 200 pounds. He puts on 50 pounds to come to 200. What do you think his skills look like at 200 pounds?
I don't know. Still enough to beat you, but I mean,
I know.
but probably not. But you're taking away like all. You're probably hindering a lot of the things that he is known for, i.e., speed. Very quick footwork. Like very quick upper body. His shoulder rolls and all that kind of stuff.
I would just say the argument I had was that
but they're definitely diminished.
Me at 200 pounds would be a lot more in my normal comfort zone than
Right.
Floyd. Floyd would be fat at 200 pounds.
Well, and I would like to read this little caveat here, though, man, that a lot of people forgot. And this is, of course, a fucking straight from probably nobody could see that, like with the light or whatever. But so De La Hoya and Mayweather were scheduled for a rematch on September 20th, 2008. However, unlike the first fight, the fight would have been contracted for 147. The first fight was contracted at 154, and De La Hoya's junior middleweight title was on the line. However, Mayweather would have come in as champion and defended as a tune-up fight. De La Hoya fought Stevie Forbes, who we are going to be having on here very soon, the great Stevie 2 pounds Forbes, as a tune-up fight. With Floyd Sr. back as his trainer, De La Hoya looked extremely sluggish, but ultimately won a unanimous decision over Forbes. The rematch never took place due to Mayweather's retirement in 2008 and De La Hoya's retirement in 2009. Although Mayweather would return to boxing in 2009. See that, man? Again, and I guess
Retired for no rematch.
Yeah, well, that could very well be, man.
You can make an argument. You can make an argument.
He very narrowly escaped that one, man, where even his own daddy told him, man, hey, that man beat you.
Right.
And I mean, again, I talk about their tense relationship, though. I don't know if that's something that Floyd Sr. says, man. I don't know the dynamics of their relationship, man. But you are on national TV, man, right after this fight ended, man, and you're on the hot seat, dude. And you're not even in the biggest moment of his life up to that point, even going to give your son the accolades that he just won that fight.
Come on, man. We're father son right here. This is our podcast. We're father and son. Are you ever on national TV, if I just won the fight by decision, I'm going to tell somebody that I didn't win it? The other guy won?
No, I probably wouldn't.
Even if you believe.
I mean, blood should be thicker than water.
That I didn't win. Would you tell them I didn't win?
No, blood should be thicker than water in that case, man. I mean, it should be, man. But again, that speaks to my earlier point, though, about the tension in their relationship and the fact that Floyd Sr. and Oscar have a very good relationship, that worked very well for them and was very successful, fucking both in the ring, lucratively, financially, all that stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like, he won a lot of fucking matches with Oscar did with Floyd Sr. At the helm as his trainer. I mean, and it also speaks volumes, man, that Floyd Sr. never trained fucking Floyd Jr., man. It was always Roger.
Well, I feel like to your earlier point, a lot of that had to do with their tumultuous relationship.
Yeah. But I mean, Oscar certainly didn't by any means go slumming it for trainers going to get the great Freddie Roach. I mean,
not at all.
He certainly pulled in an elite level trainer, man. And I mean, come on, who's not going to jump at the fight to get to wet their beak, so to speak?
And dude,
on Oscar's person.
Freddie Roach to this day is an elite top trainer. With his Parkinson's, with his problems, he's still elite.
Yeah. Well, the Parkinson's, when he's doing boxing related activities, it seems to go away. It's good for him, I think.
Yeah.
Like when he's in there working the mitts or he's working with
love,
guys, man.
It's his passion. Yeah. It's like when those people with Tourette's start singing and they all of a sudden don't got Tourette's anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So apparently, in the in-between here, as I said, Oscar took a tune-up fight with Stevie Forbes, who will be joining us here on our podcast in the very near future here. And so we can get his take on a lot of that stuff, and psychologically and physically what it was like to be in the ring with Oscar, man, from somebody that has a firsthand account of that experience. But the thing that I liked about like why Oscar won this fight though, man, is because, and I don't know, man, they're not the most impressive, but I harken back to Sugar Ray Leonard's fight with Marvelous Marvin Hagler, which was a big deal when I was a kid, 1987. I'm 14 years old, and this is the Oscar Floyd of that era.
I don't want to cut you off here. I don't want to cut you off. You got to look up for it easy. You got to look. I know I've seen him, but I'd like to just hear him again because we're discussing it. Pull up the copy box on this.
On this fight?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oscar versus Floyd. All right. I'm working on it here, man. So carry us for a minute here. Well, what little that I do have here, the copyback scoring tallied 587 punches thrown by De La Hoya to Mayweather's 481. So that's another whole 106 punches thrown. So, if you like busy, Oscar was definitely the busier guy. But while Mayweather's gloves spent more idle time, they were far more accurate. His connection percentage was more than double De La Hoya's, as he landed 43% of his total punches to De La Hoya's 21%. And that, again, man, is why Oscar can't abandon his jab, especially against a guy like Floyd. It is critical to keep pumping that jab.
Yeah, you got to keep it in his nose constantly.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, man, you should be starting your combos and coming in with it and exiting and leaving and maybe firing one off, man, because Floyd's ready to go to work when you're done punching.
Right.
Notoriously fucking savvy, counter puncher. I mean, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, a pure counter puncher of all time. I mean,
yeah,
he waits for you.
The greatest.
I mean, he waits for you. He waits for you to get done, and then then he goes to work. And you also remember in one of the buildups there, man, that he brought a fucking gold, or maybe he was wearing a gold chain, but he brought a live chicken in a cage to one of those press conferences. He was mocking like the Golden Boy image, calling him the Golden Chicken or whatever, and he had a medal around his neck, so kind of mocking his 1992 Olympic gold medal. But come on, don't be a hater, man. You can't poke fun at Oscar De La Hoya for winning a gold medal, dude. That's honorable.
I mean, yeah, you win.
But he relished playing the villain role, I mean, he's got to be the villain. Yeah, he did land more power punches, that's for sure. He did land more power punches.
Floyd landed more power punches?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, so here's something very interesting.
Ring generalship, though, comes into question.
Here's something that's very interesting. The final minute of the final round was the only time where the fighters really went toe-to-toe in the center of the ring. Judge Roth was the only judge to score the 12th round for Mayweather. And if he had gone the other way, which I think De La Hoya did win the last round, his card would have been 114-114, which would have made the fight end in a draw.
Right.
So again, that's how Jerry wrote.
De La Hoya won. Right.
Yeah. So that could have gone a completely different way. But, it'll certainly be interesting if people do comment on this episode. I always like to hear people's assessment of this fight and their points or whatever. And by no means do I impugn anybody's point, man. I mean, if someone's got some new evidence.
Yeah, but you heard it here on Off the Couch Boxing. It was bad judging again. and it was just 1 point on a swing round, a round that Oscar definitively won.
Yeah. I don't know about definitively, but it sounds like, man, that it should have gone Oscar's way. And I'm having a hard time remembering the last round, man, but I think
right now, off you saying that they said they stood toe-to-toe in the center of the ring and threw, there's no way Floyd got the better of Oscar in a toe-to-toe throw. That's not Floyd's game.
No, that's true. Now, here's a direct quote from Mayweather Sr. after the fight. I thought Oscar won the fight on points, threw more punches, and was more aggressive. Mayweather Sr. told reporters per the Associated Press. My son had good defense and caught a lot of punches, but Oscar pressed enough to win the fight.
Right.
But it is odd, though, that Roth was the only judge to score the 12th round for Mayweather, man. So, but I'm interested to see, though, like, is he the guy who had the Yep, and Jerry Roth ultimately was the one that had it 115, 113 for Mayweather.
Right, which would have turned to 114 even.
So maybe he was the guy in Al Heyman or whoever Floyd was promoted by at the time, man. Maybe he was in somebody's back pocket. I mean, I don't know that this. I'd have to go back. It would serve me well to go back and watch that 12th round again, man. Like just to be, and I will certainly do that. I don't want to speak out of turn here, man, and say, I remember it like I remember Gaddy Ward fight 1 round 9. I mean, it's not etched into my brain this round 12, but I mean. The article's making it sound like this was won by De La Hoya, so it probably was. I as we close this up here, man, I'm going to stick to my, I'm going to stick to my guns on this, man. And it has been a while since I've watched the fight, and it probably would serve me, even though I feel like I've seen it enough, man. But I feel like if people start coming at us in the comment section here, I want to be armed and ready for battle, man, because I can already hear the Floyd, the Floyd fans, and they are many. They are many.
Right.
But they have their point too, man. But I would love to hear in the comment section, though, exactly. Not just people spewing out shit. Oh, y'all are haters. Come on, man. Floyd won that fight. Get over it. He's the GOAT. But specifically tell me why he won the fight. Fucking point to something. Cite something. Say, hey, you know what I mean? Because here's the rounds that he won. Or here's the things that he did that were great.
I think the only thing that they would have real easy, and that's why I asked about it, was the CompuBox. Says Floyd landed more shots and more power shots.
Yeah. I mean, and that's always that fucking that wall that the judges can hide behind too, man. I hate CompuBox, man. I really fucking do, man. I wish they wouldn't even put those numbers up, man. I mean, it skews people, and then they make that part of their argument. I like just watching a fight between two guys and just saying, hey, as a fan, as a guy, as a whatever, I'm not saying women can't be boxing fans. As a human being, I can look at that fight and I can say that guy, in my eyes, got the better of that guy. Right.
And I agree. And to that point, I would say the reason I agree is because if you're in a street fight, and you're witnessing two guys duking it out, and, one guy's getting the better of the other guy, and the fight ends, like the guy that was getting the better assumes he won.
Yeah.
It's not we're gonna turn over here to the judges and see if you really won.
Yeah. And I know from scoring it, I don't remember it round by round specifics, man, but I'm pretty sure that I had 115, 113 Oscar's way too. So I imagine that I was probably enthralled by a lot of the same stuff and feel he won for a lot of the same reasons that Floyd Sr. did. Floyd Sr. just likes the idea of an aggressive guy pushing the pace, throwing some body shots, walking a guy down. Those were all things that Oscar was doing well.
Yeah, his ring generalship was clearly better.
Yeah. And he tried to go to the body and do a lot of those, as I was talking about the Sugar Ray Leonard-Hagler fight before. A lot of people aren't impressed, but Hagler stole a lot. Sugar Ray Leonard stole a lot of rounds right in the last couple of seconds with what the old-timers call shoe shine combos. And Oscar was doing those kind of combos. Anytime he had Floyd against the ropes and Floyd was holding him, he was just just fucking digging into the sides. Now, come on. Those are scoring blows, though. I mean, say what you want about him. Okay, yeah, they're not shit. They're not turning Floyd's fucking ribs into fucking dust, but he's not getting a lot of leverage and torque and really digging a mean body shot in there, but a punch landed is a punch landed, but
yeah, it still adds to the cumulative damage.
Yeah. It behooves people to go back and watch it and come in here with some evidence.
And I mean, Floyd is the point fighting GOAT, right? He's the Mr. Point fighter. Well, you have to say that those combinations are in boxing scoring points.
It is what he does. It is what he does. Yeah. I mean,
even if they're not the most,
arguably one of the greatest.
Even if they're not the most powerful shot.
Right.
De La Hoya's little pitter pat combinations to scoring points. That's how boxing works.
Well, I'm sure this argument will rage on, and this will end up, this fight will go down in the annals of history as, not only one of the all-time greats, but certainly one of the more, highly debated fights of all time. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be people in the comment section who will say that it wasn't close, or who will say that the judges had it too close, and that Floyd won by a wider margin. And then there might be people that have come out in Oscar's favor and say that they think, it is very subjective, boxing. In its simplest form, it is very subjective. I mean, what one guy likes that's sitting next to you might not be what you like.
And this could be to whoever takes this personally. This is probably meant for you. If you're, then you aren't really a pugilist, man. You're not really looking at the true art form of boxing and all that comes with it.
Right.
Just the numbers and an analytics guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's more to fighting than just that.
Meets the eye. Right. And then just the CompuBox stat.
Well, irregardless, man, certainly a couple of...
I'm a judge. There's more that goes into me scoring a round for you than just maybe you landed punches and he landed 7 clean shots. But if his 7 clean shots, he was walking you down the whole time and cornering you, I'm going to think, he's controlling this area. He's doing the manipulating of this guy. He's putting him where he wants him to be.
Yeah. Well, just looking at that thumbnail that we have in our room here of these two colossal all-time greats trading punches, man, it reminds me of a quote about toughness from our great American poet.
Looking at that picture, I know where you're going with this, man, but looking at that picture, even though he's turning Oscar's head a little bit, look at how his arm is. Look at the shape of his arm. It's an L, dude.
Yeah.
There's zero power on that punch. Nothing.
Yeah, short and crisp. Short and crisp. Yeah.
No, there's no power on that, dude.
Yeah, but Floyd always did have a nice quick little check hook, though, man.
Nothing.
I imagine that's what he's clipping Oscar with, and he is scoring on him right there. So I mean, and it looks like
it's
Oscar.
a nice punch, but it's not powerful.
And it looks like he's beating Oscar to the punch there, man, because it looks like Oscar has either trying to throw that straight right or is pulling it back after throwing it.
But yeah, I will go now, and I will quote our great American poet Gary Busey by saying that I can go 15 seconds with anything.
Wow. That's a bold claim, man, to be able to go 15 seconds with anything. Man, monster, anything, animal,
Right.
anything. Well, the only thing that
give me a polar bear. I got it for 15 seconds. Even
start
the clock.
I will send it off.
Start the clock, even if I'm running.
Yeah. I will fend off a polar bear for 15 seconds. No fucking doubt about it, man. On that note, I will just add, as we leave here, man, Oscar De La Hoya wins this fight. And on that note, bazang!